going to spend her time in Congress representing something called democracy. Watch.
Every one of us who has sworn the oath must act to prevent the unraveling of our democracy. Understand the peril of this moment for our democracy. As the party of Reagan, Republicans have championed democracy. Democracy is fragile. Democracy is fragile. Democracy is fragile. Democracy only survives if citizens are willing to defend it.
So it turns out democracy is like that boyfriend you've got in another city. You kind of talk him up a lot, but you don't really want him to show up, other people to meet him. What happened to Liz Cheney last night? Democracy showed up in Wyoming. And Liz Cheney suffered the single biggest defeat in a primary by an incumbent this century. So it turns out democracy is a cruel master. You got to be careful. It can whip around and bite you in the butt. But what's funny is that over at CNN, they're still defending democracy, but they have no idea what it is. From CNN's perspective and from Liz Cheney's, it turns out democracy means you shut up and submit to the rule of people who haven't been elected. In the case of Liz Cheney, CNN believes democracy means keeping her in power despite the fact that people she represents don't like her. Watch this.
We're keeping a close watch on Wyoming, and what happens there tonight could add to a trend, and that is election deniers winning primaries around the nation. What does that mean for our democracy and the risk of more chaos, like what we saw on January 6th?
So, when voters totally reject a candidate that we in CNN like, when voters actually vote, which is, of course, the core ritual of democracy, it's the essence of democracy. When they do that, it's a threat to democracy. And of course, Liz Cheney agrees. Her losing definitively in Wyoming is the greatest threat to democracy since the Civil War. And she should know because effectively, she's Abe Lincoln.
The great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed, he saved our Union, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history.
I lost, Lincoln lost, me, I'm Lincoln. Another sad, middle-aged, rich lady narcissism trip, for sure. But you have to wonder if there aren't lessons in all of this, and for that we go to a much smarter man, Victor Davis Hanson, a senior